Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this special conversation and Q&A. I'll just say a few words as people start to join us today. My name is Ivy Sullivan. I work at New America, the lead partner of the Partnership to Advance Youth Apprenticeship, also known as PIA. PIA is a national initiative dedicated to advancing apprenticeship as a high-quality post-secondary option for young people that may be utilized instead of or alongside a traditional college experience. When you have a moment, please introduce yourselves in the Slido on the right-hand side of your screen. And as you get to that, I'll just explain a little bit about PIA. So within PIA, I am the manager of the PIA Network, which is a select group of more than 70 state and local partnerships. The network brings together educators, employers, policymakers, community leaders, and apprenticeship intermediaries to generate best practices and new feedback loops that accelerate innovation in apprenticeships for young people. That's enough about us. Before I hand the virtual mic over to our moderator for today's conversation, a few logistical items to note. As I just mentioned, if folks are still joining, feel free to introduce yourselves in the Slido on your screen, the chat box thing. And also feel free to drop questions in that chat box throughout our conversation today. We'll save a couple minutes towards the end of our hour today for folks to ask their different questions. And please note that today's webinar is being recorded and will be made available online shortly. Oh, perfect. That's a great slide to have. So let's get to it. I'll say New America is proud to be a partner with RTI International and the U.S. DOL-funded Educator Registered Apprenticeship Intermediary, which is led by Elizabeth Stanifer here at RTI. And with that, I'll leave you in her capable hands. Please feel free to continue introducing yourself in the Slido. Off to you, Elizabeth.
Great. So great to be here today. Thank you so much, Ivy, and our partners at New America through PIA. Just a quick activity. We're going to create a word cloud. So as you are able to introduce yourself in the Slido chat, if you would also tell us why you're engaging in this work of introducing youth to teaching pathways. And then New America is going to work their magic and show us what your answers are. Okay, so if we could move on to the next slide as people join with us through the word cloud and give us their name and information. Let's start with some data and let's look at the numbers. First, according to a study that was issued by the National Center for Education and Education Statistics, 80% of K-12 public schools in the past school year reported challenges hiring teachers in their school districts. Additionally, 70% of those public schools cited that their biggest barrier to hiring teachers was too few candidates applying for the open positions, and 66% of those respondents said that they could not find high-quality teachers in their candidate pool. So that's pretty alarming when you think about the effects on children. What we know today is that 6 million children a day are affected by our teacher shortages. Millions across the U.S. are not getting high quality instruction because we don't have those folks trained in our classrooms. And we think that youth apprenticeship is a tool that could help to start to look at a new pipeline to impact that number. Okay, next slide. So here's our why. Today, we're here to talk to you about why every child deserves a highly effective and caring educator. And we think that our youth pipeline is a great place to begin. The next slide. So why tap into teaching apprenticeship pathways for youth? Let's look at some reasons why youth make great candidates for educator apprenticeship. So let's define the why. Across the U.S., 34% of our youth have no post-secondary plan, whether that's college graduates or high school graduates. Youth are willing to take lower paying jobs if they understand a few things, and let's look at those. First, what their opportunities for advancement are in the pathway. Next, the role and how it connects to their education in a meaningful way. Additionally, the benefits associated with the job through the offset of education costs and fringe benefits, and how they might be able to earn while they can learn. And we know that their parents are interested in that as well. Gen Z, which is ages 16 to 22, are more interested in helping others. They value the relevance through their work experience. And those two characteristics help them to become excellent candidates for apprenticeship and teaching careers. So let's look at it a different way. I think that we could say that youth are uniquely dispositioned based on the characteristics of their generation to be one of the greatest teaching cohorts in our nation's history. So let's look at this graphic. On the left, you see the characteristics of an apprentice. They take initiative, they're adaptive to needs, they understand sense of duty, they are strong communicators, and they're logical. So if you look on our wheel, you can see our Gen Z youth and their specific qualities, along with the qualities of educators, and see how those match up to being apprentice. Being self-driven, and as teachers, we love constant growth. Being adaptable, and that individual expression is important, and the idea that collaborating and thinking together is important. So I will leave you with this, but I just wanted you to think about the fact that Gen Z really does have the characteristics that lend themselves to being an apprentice and being a teacher. Next slide. So what are educator apprenticeships? They're a recruitment, preparation, and mentoring strategy that are led by employing school districts and their partners. It could be at the state or the local level. And there are two occupations that we focus on. The first one you see circled here is teacher aide 1 or paraeducator. And then in addition to that, we have focused on K-12 teacher as well. So today, we hope that you'll understand some entry points for youth into the K-12 occupation, know how to align the core components, and we're really going to hone in on those: the paid job, the on-the-job learning with the mentor, and supplemental education, and then understand the different models of K-12 apprenticeships for youth, and hopefully be able to engage with some peers and some folks that are working in the field. Next slide. So here are some sample entry points. Students can start in high school. They may do it through dual enrollment or CTE courses. They may participate in on-the-job learning, could be paid or unpaid. In addition to that, college students that have no bachelor's degree may also start as a youth. They may be working on or already have their associate's degree and working toward that bachelor. And they may also be interacting in the university level or higher education, working on their educator prep coursework. But in any case, the idea is that these individuals are employed by a school district and they are working with students. Next slide. So here another way to look at those entry points. For that high school student in particular, how can the program be structured so that the student is able to take advantage of supplemental education? In some cases, we're looking at using stackable apprenticeships with credentials. So they may have an apprenticeship as a TA, and then they may start another apprenticeship as a K-12 teacher. Or you could be looking at a structure from pre-apprenticeship to apprenticeship that could be paid or unpaid that articulates credit. Or in some cases, our youth are starting as an apprentice from day one. And it really depends on their state and what their laws are around being able to start the apprentice. We know that apprentices can start at 16, but some school districts won't allow them to start until 18. So that's one way we think about structure. And then as far as the related instruction, it could be dual enrollment or CTE coursework, but how can you pay these youth? Some are working in after-school programs, some are working as tutors, substitutes, or in some cases, a teacher aide or paraprofessional. So we know that there are 7 components of registered apprenticeship, and today we're going to focus on the 3 that you see on your left: paid job, on-the-job learning, and supplemental education. So for the paid job component, many employ pre-apprentices and apprentices using some of the positions that I've already mentioned. They may be hired as a paraeducator, depending on whether or not they've been able to meet the criteria for that in their school district, or a teacher assistant. They may be a long-term sub. They may be in a new position that has been created specifically for apprenticeship in the district. And we're going to have some experts today to talk about how they're able to employ and pay these youth apprentices. We know that apprenticeship, if they're registered in that capacity, does require a progressive wage scale, and that's defined in our standards of apprenticeship. If they're a pre-apprentice, depending on the role that they're playing, they may be paid or unpaid. Next slide. So one of the model programs that we're going to talk to on our panel today is Surrey Yadkin Works, and we'll introduce them soon. They are a college-sponsored program. They serve 4 school systems, and they begin with a teacher aide registered apprenticeship in which they employ their apprentices. After these folks complete that TA program, they are directed into their K-12 teacher program out of high school, and they're hired as teacher aides, tutors, substitutes, or after-school care. And they have various funding streams that they pay them out of that they're going to talk to us about in just a few minutes. Next slide. On-the-job learning and mentorship is another component that's required in apprenticeship. And it's a really key component because that's where that extensive on-the-job learning under the supervision of a mentor occurs. It's guided by the work process schedule or the competency-based checklist. Apprentices are going to work with their mentor to demonstrate their learning throughout the program, and mentors are often provided training themselves to be able to work with their apprentices. The qualifications of mentors are defined in the standards, and they may be program or state specific. Next slide. On-the-job learning, again, is defined in the standards of apprenticeship through the work processes or competency-based checklist. And we have, on the next slide, you'll see someone with us today from the Department of Public Instruction in North Carolina. Next slide, please. Who will outline their on-the-job learning and how that is tied to their curriculum. That was developed in North Carolina for teaching, and it was registered as a pre-apprenticeship. So we'll be introducing that program as well. And then lastly, we've got that supplemental education part. Supplemental education can occur at the college level, but it can also occur at the high school level. Apprentices are going to complete coursework in education at institutes of higher ed or an ed prep program, obviously, so that they can achieve licensure and become a teacher. But supplemental education should be provided by approved EPP programs in states, and it should result in the credential to become a teacher. And in high school, a lot of times really great articulation agreements are in place, and hopefully we're going to be able to learn about some of those things today. We have a guest on the next slide from Educate Texas who's going to talk about their student journey and how they position students to be able to complete this portion of the apprenticeship program. All right, next slide. So with no further ado, we'd love to get to the most important part of the day, which is our panelists. I've alluded to them in this short presentation, but today we will have with us Rachel Hyatt from Surrey Community College in a program called Surrey Yadkin Works. And with her, we have Emily Bruner, who is a K-12 teacher apprentice, and they'll be talking about their experience in their program. Valerie Williams from the North Carolina Department of Career and Technical Education at the Department of Public Instruction will be talking about the Teaching as a Profession course and how it came to be registered as a youth apprenticeship program through pre-apprenticeship. And then we'll have Erica Simon from Educate Texas, who will talk to us about the related instruction that she helps set up with the programs that she supports in her state. So with no further ado, we would love for our panelists to come on board with us. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the panel. We are so excited to have you here. We would love for you to just give a brief introduction, maybe 1 minute, and just talk about your position in apprenticeship and how you work with youth on educator registered apprenticeship. And since I see Erica first on my screen, I'll call on Erica. Welcome, Erica.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Hi, everybody. I'm Erica Simon. I'm the Deputy Director of Strategy and Higher Education at Educate Texas. I run a statewide intermediary called Career Connect Texas, and we've brought together cohorts of school districts and higher education partners to work on youth apprenticeship in education and in teaching. And so you saw a quick slide of a goal student journey that came from a district in Central Texas, right outside of Austin, that was really focused on building that curricula of dual credit classes so that students could be reaching, being able to get a credential. Associates of Arts in Teaching in Texas is one of the credentials that gets them on their way. And starting with high school, in 11th and 12th grade, there are classes that the students can take that start from child development and principles of education that are built into the curricula and can be built in via a block schedule or just the regular schedule that the school uses for their CTE programs. And so there are, a multitude of ways to build in those that related instruction that is required to get students ready for moving on to getting their bachelor's degree once they've gotten their associate's degree. So there are many ways to do this, and I'm happy to answer questions later and have some examples that I know you're going to hear from Rachel and Emily and Valerie, who will talk about specific examples from their experiences.
Great. Glad to have you here, Erica. I'm going to move over to Valerie Williams. She's here today representing I think a real innovation in how to infuse work-based learning into a course. She wrote a course for North Carolina. And Valerie, I'm going to move it over to you.
All right, so I am Valerie Williams, and I work for the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction and Career and Technical Education, which is a unique way to build in education to the world of work, because sometimes we only think of career and technical education as specific skills like carpentry or masonry, but education is an art and a skill, and so it blends really well with what we've done. And we have built a partnership in North Carolina with universities as well as community college systems with articulated credit for our program. So it kind of allows the students to get a taste of college life education while they're still in high school. And along with that, we have integrated a course that requires field experience. So students get 120 hours of class time doing learning the practical aspects of that pre-apprenticeship program while both getting college credit and high school credit at the same time. So I'm excited to share about that today.
Yep. Can't wait, Valerie. And last, but certainly not least, I saved the best for last. We have Rachel Hyatt and Emily Bruner from the Surrey Ag and Works program, which is under the community college system of Surrey Community College. We would love for you to introduce yourself, and they're going to talk to us about how it actually happens that a youth works and goes to school and gets these credentials to become a teacher. So Rachel and Emily, take it away.
I'm Rachel Hyatt. I'm the Director of Work-Based Learning and Apprenticeships for Surrey Community College in Dobson, North Carolina. I serve our program in several aspects. We, as an extension of Surrey Community College, our apprenticeship sponsorship is called Surrey Ag and Works. We currently have about 88 apprentices across several disciplines, but educator is our second largest program. We sponsor the pre-apprenticeship program, in which our students do very much what Valerie was explaining. They earn high school credit and college credit while they're in high school doing a pre-apprenticeship. So they actually are registered for that high school class that has the on-the-job learning component, and they receive credit for that. Once they graduate from high school, they have the opportunity to transition into an apprenticeship program. So they can either enter our program as a TA, and with the option to transition to our K-12 teacher occupation upon completion of TA, or they can enter directly into our K-12 teacher occupation right out of high school. One thing that's really unique about our program is the training that our pre-apprentices get outside of the workplace. We provide them with OSHA 10 certification. They all get a class in Introduction to Lean processes. They all do a DISC behavior style assessment to learn more about communicate effectively in the workplace. So there's a whole host of credentials that they earn even outside of the classroom or workplace as supplemental credentials to the pre-apprenticeship credit. And I'll let Emily introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Emily Bruner. I'm a apprentice for Surrey Action Works. I'm currently at a elementary school tutoring right now, so I absolutely love that. And last semester I was a pre-apprentice for Surrey Action Works, and I also love that as well.
Well, great to have you here. And we're going to start with you guys because if you remember our pie chart, the first thing that we mentioned as one of the critical components of a registered apprenticeship is that it has to be a paid job. So there's a question mark in a lot of people's minds sometimes about how do we, if they're an apprentice, how do we employ them? If they're a pre-apprentice, should we employ them? Should they be paid? So my question for you guys, Rachel and Emily, is can you talk a little bit about how the employers in your program, and for those of you that don't remember, because I went over it quickly, Rachel works with 4 different employers, four school districts. How do you make it work to employ and pay these youth apprentices and pre-apprentices?
Well, our school districts, they do have to get creative, but this is an important program to them. They want to grow their own teachers. So they are often, they try to be selective with how many pre-apprentices or apprentices they can hire based on the budget that's available to them. They also may structure a certain number of hours that the students can work per month in order to stretch those budget dollars even farther.
And so what types of positions are your apprentices taking? I know that Emily, you just mentioned that you're tutoring. What are the other things that happen?
So they may be tutors, they may be in after school care, they may be employed as TAs, they may also be long-term substitutes. So many different positions based on where funding is available.
So Emily, could you tell us a little bit about your experience working as a pre-apprentice and now working as an apprentice? What was that like for you? And do you enjoy being able to get a paycheck and earn while you learn?
I definitely enjoy getting a paycheck. Yes. It's been great. It was great when I was a pre-apprentice. I was working after school, and now, like I said, I'm a tutor at an elementary school. This is great. Like every so often we'll have a meeting, and the people from Surrey Action Works will ask me, what can I improve to help you? What is your classes okay? Everything like that. So They really check on us and make sure that we're doing good in school and at our jobs.
So when you were in high school, what was it like for you in terms of your pathway? What was a typical day in the world of Emily, being a pre-apprentice, trying to get some credit to become a teacher? What was your pathway like?
I had a couple in-person classes at my high school in the morning, so I would go to those two in-person classes in the morning. And then since I was working after school, I would have to be at our local community center at 2:45 and then stay till 5:30. So I still had time to balance out my school and my job. It wasn't ever, any stress with that.
That sounds good. So what type of coursework were you taking to prepare you to become a teacher when you were in high school?
I took a Principles of Education class, and I think now I'm taking a bunch of EDU classes, but I know I took Principles of Education in high school.
And was that a dual enrollment course? Do you know?
It was.
I'll add there that North Carolina's dual enrollment program called College and Career Promise. I'm sorry, Career and College Promise. It is designed for high school students to earn college credit, take college classes while they're in high school, and those are at no cost to the student. So we have several pathways established where those high school students can take college credit toward a certificate, diploma, or degree. And oftentimes our students, when they graduate high school, have 12 or more college credits already.
And when I was in high school, I did take college classes too in high school, but they just weren't education classes yet.
So where are you going to school now, Emily?
I'm at Surrey Community College now. And then in 2 years, I will transfer to Lees McRae and major in elementary education.
Excellent. And will all of those credits that you've gotten be able to transfer to Lees McRae?
Yes, they will.
Great. And I think that is probably a testament to the really great work that the college has done to create partnerships with local educator prep programs to make sure that that happens. And so you'll be out in our classrooms as a teacher before you know it, probably.
Yes, I'm very excited.
So last question for you guys, and then I'm going to move on and start to beat up on some of the other folks on the call and get them to give us some answers. But in terms of funding, you mentioned it a little bit, Rachel. Are there any unique funding streams in your area that have been negotiated? Like, how are you guys paying for all of this? Related instruction, the salaries? You mentioned a little bit about that.
So our area consists of two counties, Surrey and Yadkin counties. And the Surrey Yadkin Works pre-apprenticeship program is funded by the Board of Commissioners for both of those counties. So they came together in a partnership with the superintendents of all of our school systems and our college president to form a partnership and start funding our program. When it began, I think 2016, it was a grant-funded program for only one school system, but we saw such success with it. It was picked up by the county commissioners to be sponsored to move forward. So the staff, the Surrey Yadkin Works personnel that work directly with students are funded by the money we get from the both of those boards of commissioners. They also fund a $1,000 per semester stipend for high school students. So while Emily was paid by her employer, she also received $250 a month throughout the semester to help supplement additional costs. So I think, we have a very unique situation in which we were able to have the Board of Commissioners from two neighboring counties to come together and decide that this program was had proven to be successful enough and was valuable enough to our community to grow the youth, that we have here and encourage them to remain here and live their lives and have their careers here, that they funded the entire program basically. We have utilized some other grant fundings. The original grant was a Golden Leaf grant. And then most recently, we have, with the help of our Elizabeth and RTI, we've gotten some funding from the Department of Labor for our educator apprenticeship.
Yep. And it would be important to note about North Carolina, they do have a youth waiver you may have heard of, that students who are registered as a pre-apprentice or apprentice have 120 days to enroll in their educator prep program, and they can get those at the community college. I should be distinctive about that. Then they can continue on in their education from high school through that waiver, and it'll continue to be paid for. We also have some legislation that can help offset the cost once they go to the Ed Prep program in North Carolina through our General Assembly and our State Board of Education that they have set aside, that we're working on getting that out to districts as well. So thank you so much for talking about all of that. And one last clarification. Would it be possible for a high school student in your program to finish their associate's degree in educator prep and have completed an apprenticeship for teacher assistant and move on into a K-12 teacher program after that?
Yes, absolutely. And we actually have some apprentices who've done that. Coming out of high school, they have the option. Some of our students, like Emily, they already have their plan in place. Now, our related instruction does require that they do the first 2 years, the Associate in Arts or Science and teacher prep at Surrey Community College. So they do have to be, enrolled in Surrey Community College for that related instruction. But beyond that, once they complete that portion and they've completed their teacher aide apprenticeship, they do have the option then to apply all of those credits to the K-12 teacher apprenticeship and move into that one.
Okay, so kind of a dual pathway. You could be a pre-apprentice out of high school into an apprenticeship, or you could complete an apprenticeship in high school for TA, come back and be hired as a TA, and then start your apprenticeship for K-12 teacher. Great.
That is correct, yes.
Thank you. And Emily, you were pre-apprentice to apprentice, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, Valerie, you're up next. I think people will be very excited to hear about this CTE course that you developed, teaching as a profession, and the components that you added to it. Could you sort of describe the structure of this program and how it came to be a pre-apprenticeship program?
Yes, so like I said earlier, the course actually started out of an agreement with our state systems wide university structure. So it was built to highly encourage students to go into education. And from that model, we realized that apprenticeships were a great option for students. They allowed doors to open for students and to get some extra training and extra support, because what we've found is that a lot of new teachers leave within the first couple of years because they don't have that mentorship role and that support system that they really, really need. And so apprenticeship is a great model to build that into a student's success and a new teacher's success. And so our program, because we have a large number of, we call them field experience hours in this course that students do at local schools, it allows the student to see high quality classrooms and multiple high quality classrooms, and it allows them to make connections in schools so that they can find a mentor. Because sometimes your best mentor is not the teacher that you're teaching with at a school, but it's a friend that you can bounce ideas off of and learn and grow from that. So we realized when we had this pre-apprenticeship opportunity that it was something that aligned exactly to what this course was. So we built it backwards, not knowing about pre-apprenticeships, but pre-apprenticeships slid in perfectly to the way that the course is taught. So students get 2 courses of content that education, pedagogy, and theory, and all of that practice before they start their field experience. So they've got this knowledge that they're working when they work in the classrooms. And because our high school students are high school students, it's not like a student teaching where they're left alone with the students. They're not taking over control of the classroom, but it's very structured support as they begin to take on responsibilities and work in the classroom and understand all of the aspects of the classroom. And I was with a group of teachers that teach this course just earlier this week, and that was the biggest feedback they gave was the students are realizing that it's a community in the school. It's not the teacher alone. And so getting to dive in and realize how you can build a network to support students and support yourself as you are learning the field has been super important for the students. And our pre-apprenticeship is written where students are not required to be paid for that field experience that they do. It is an option that can be written in and is allowed, but it's not a requirement. So a lot of school systems are interested in it because it gives them time to build a structure and figure out how they can pay a student who wants to continue from the pre-apprenticeship to the apprenticeship route. And it really helps them kind of plug in and learn what they want to do and the areas that they want to work in the school system.
And so technically, Valerie, what's happening is your students are participating in on-the-job learning and pre-apprenticeship, but it's actually through a course. It's through related instruction, and it's considered related instruction. And it's just so deeply embedded in there that you're using it as course credit. And in North Carolina, they actually are able to get pre-apprenticeship registration and get a certificate because in this state it is recognized and registered. And we know that not all states are, not all states register pre-apprenticeships, but this is a registered program, correct?
Yes, it is.
Wonderful. I'm going to transition, since we're talking about related instruction, over to you, Erica, so that you can tell us about the programs that you've worked with and kind of how they have conceptualized this related instruction piece. And I'm going to ask any of the other components that we've mentioned in terms of paid job or work-based learning, please feel free to throw that in as well.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, all very familiar things that I'm hearing from my co-panelists here. But you know, it can look different in various districts. I'm thinking of that slide you saw from Del Valle, that you know, they have a you know, articulation agreement with the local college, Temple College, to be able to, you know, have those classes that they take in their CTE programs in high school transfer over. You know, we talked about it a little bit. You've heard from these others that, you know, the related technical instruction can start as early as 9th grade if you have identified the pathway. Dallas, in Dallas, there's a community that's Richardson ISD, and they start their pathway work in 9th grade with principles of education. They use a block schedule, and they make sure that that related technical instruction is embedded into the school day. So you know, there's lots of ways that it can be done. In Texas, we have a community college system that is each county, each region has an independent community college system. It's so, you know, different rules apply based on where you are, but really the related technical instruction is a joint effort between the district and the college. And in the most instances, when we're talking about youth apprenticeship and starting in high schools, it is with the colleges that they're working. So there are many ways to design it. And I think that the school districts have to, and the colleges just have to be flexible with each other to ensure that the appropriate classes are being slated and scheduled that, fit in line with the schedule of the students. And I mean, I certainly heard Emily talking about her, going to class in the morning and then being out and having her sort of on the job experience in the afternoon. It can look like that. It can look like, related technical instruction happening during the school, during the school day or even the school year, and some of that on the job learning happening in different blocks, either in the summer or on the weekends. So it can look a lot of different ways.
Eric, I had a follow-up question for you in terms of the programs that you're working with. How are they talking about, or how are they achieving offsetting the cost of related technical instruction when that comes into play?
Yeah, there different approaches. Some of our community colleges are no cost for students that are in that local community that graduate from a local community district, and so that's certainly an easy way. There are state grants and other philanthropic ways that ISDs are looking to pay for or getting that related technical instruction tuition offset. So I think about all of these programs, and I know the definition, we know the definition is that these students should be paid. There are instances where they're not getting paid when they're in high school, and we want to rectify that. And so but as far as the related technical instruction and the tuition benefits, sometimes the school district is covering it, sometimes the students themselves are covering it, but they're often negotiated rates so that they're quite a bit lower.
So I have another question for Valerie, you and Erica, in terms of thinking about your programs, these students starting in high school. What does the transition look like from high school into post-secondary in terms of the credits they've gotten, the on-the-job learning they've gotten? Sometimes in other industry sectors, we hear things like, well, the student completed their apprenticeship in high school and they may come back to the district, or we may engage with them again. What is it like for the teacher candidate?
I think so going back to that tuition coverage, there are instances in Texas where a student graduates from their CT high school program, they go on to the local community college, and there's an agreement that if those students come back to the ISD where they graduated from, that there's a tuition reimbursement or a commitment to help cover the tuition.
And I would say that North Carolina is very similar. We have several districts who have created what they're calling like grow your own scholarships that help supplement a student's tuition with that guarantee that they'll come back to that county to teach. Although I've talked to several students who are like, I really want to teach in the state, but I don't want to come back to my district. And it's that balance of, we don't care where you teach as long as you come back and teach somewhere. And so that balance to open up opportunities for students is something that we are struggling with, because the county wants them to all obviously come back locally. We just want them to complete a program and become a teacher somewhere and make a difference. So it's an interesting thought to talk through, and our different counties have all approached it differently in what they're doing and building, because they're looking at the ways that they can support long-term growth. If it's a big county, or a small county may have a very different approach to it because they can't guarantee teacher apprentices spots when they come back in certain areas. So it's an interesting discussion that we have all the time.
Absolutely. I'm going to turn it over now to my colleague at New America, Paya Ivy. And I think that they've been monitoring the chat. So we'd like to bring our participants to life who are out there, who I know may have some questions for our panelists. Ivy?
Yeah, thank you, everyone. We've got a lot of questions here. Maureen had a question in Slido. How do you approach districts or colleges with this idea of starting a registered apprenticeship program? And how can we go about marketing a teacher apprenticeship pathway to parents and guardians?
Rachel, I'm wondering if you might have some insight into that, since you are someone that at some point in time was approached. I can remember back when that was, Rachel. I think you're on mute. Yeah.
I think I might have been voluntold, as more than just approached about. But well, the first part of that question, approaching districts, I think that conversation has to start with, do you need teachers? And I think that conversation can start with that simple question, because we know that there is a shortage, and that they're having a tough time keeping teachers. So I think approaching districts with that question, and then showing them what's possible. But it takes, I think it takes an open mind. I think, some school districts you'll have success with, some you may not. But the ones who are really interested in, helping their students succeed while building their teacher, building up their teacher program, will be the most likely to be open to it. I worked for the college, and we kind of spearheaded this venture. So I'm not sure what the conversation would be with a college to get them on board for it. But I will say programs like pre-apprenticeship, it doesn't have to be for someone who's absolutely made the decision for teaching or not teaching. Sometimes that can be used as a career exploration tool to help students determine if it is right for them. So when marketing that, I would say more than marketing just the occupation of teacher, I would market the pre-apprenticeship program as a career exploration tool, and encourage them to explore the field to see if it feels like a good fit.
Valerie, I know that you had some conversations with some post-secondary institutions, and you were able to secure some credit. So I'm curious what types of conversations you had with colleges to get your pre-apprenticeship and the credit.
We have had lots of conversations with colleges in North Carolina, and it's a matter of having them understand what we're teaching at the high school and how it aligns. And the schools that have jumped on board with us see our program as a recruitment for their school, for their programs and their schools. A lot of them over the last decade have been losing numbers of students who move into the teaching pathways. And so any chance that they can to recruit teachers or future teachers into their pathway has been helpful for them. And we've actually found it successful to have some of those universities come visit our classrooms and look to see what we're learning and how we're integrating in, and even hearing our students who are going to universities that we don't have agreements with coming back and saying, well, this is everything I'm learning in my intro to teaching class. This is, I didn't learn anything. You taught me, and I looked like the rock star in class because I knew all the answers. And so when their professors begin having discussions with these students, then they realize that there's a program, and it actually creates a backdoor for me to come in then and say, hey, we do have this program. You've seen some of our students. Are you interested in having this discussion to articulate some credit for these students? And like I said, most of them are very interested, especially when they see that the credentials we have to have for our teachers to teach this program align with their university accreditation policies, because that's the big holdup for a lot of our universities is we don't want to do anything that jeopardizes our accreditation as a university. And so that alignment and that process of what we're willing to show them that we've documented to make sure that our high school teacher could be considered an adjunct professor at that university helps calm their qualms about the course. And usually it's a straight alignment after that.
And Valerie, I think that you, through this program, were able to achieve 6 credits for your
Our
students.
students do, yes. They get 6 credit hours at the university. So it usually equals 2 university courses that they have out of the way once they start.
Really great. Emily, I don't want to put you on the spot, but one of the things Maureen in the chat wanted to know is how can the adults talk to high school students and their parents to make sure that this pathway is well received? Could you talk a little bit about you and or your peers at the high school that learned about the apprenticeship program and teaching and how that encouraged you to do it?
Well, I had saw some older people, so I was like a sophomore, and I saw juniors and seniors doing it, and I thought that was pretty cool. And some of the people from Surrey Atkins Works came into our principles of education class and talked about it and gave out flyers. And then for our other internship class just at the high school, they had posters everywhere, and they're like, you're going to get a bunch of experience. You're going to, so yeah, it was a no-brainer for me.
Yep. So did you get to meet any of the school folks or folks from Surrey Atkins Works that were able to answer your questions and make you feel like that might be something you could fit into?
Yes. Whenever they came to the school to talk to us, I met Crystal Folger Hawks, and one of her colleagues was there with her, and they were just explaining how they can work with our schedule and that how this would just be a great experience for all of us, and it really has.
Really good. Do you know whether or not parents were involved in any of those conversations? Did they have to come to any meetings, or was there any outreach to the parents, Rachel or Emily?
If I'm not mistaken, parents do have to sign off on the pre-apprenticeship for high school students. So they do have to have some involvement in that. And of course, if a student transitions to an apprenticeship when they graduate high school but have not yet reached 18, we have to always obtain a parent's signature. So they have to receive, the pre-apprenticeship agreement form, which details the job description, the job description, the employer, and what's expected. Basically, a memorandum of understanding that has to be signed by a parent of anybody under 18.
Got it. Erica, from the program folks you've worked with, any words of wisdom or advice regarding working with the colleges or related instruction providers or parents?
I actually have a sort of good anecdote about sort of getting, sort of this approach of getting parents on board and getting everybody engaged. One of the districts we work with in Central Texas, a different one called Hutto ISD, has a ambassador program where they engage their elementary and middle schoolers. So really learning about this occupation. Obviously they, those students are in their classes every day with teachers, but really engaging them, to learn about teaching from an early point. And they make it really fun, and they have, special days where the kids get to go into the copy room and make copies, and they have a special badge, and it gets with this real enthusiastic reception from students, the young students, middle school students, elementary and middle school students, and then their parents, because they go home and tell them all about the cool stuff they're doing as a a school district ambassador and a potentially future teacher. And so I think that there are a lot of creative ways that that districts can engage the students and then ultimately the families to sort of buy in. The other thing I was just going to say, and I know we're almost out of time, is that you know, getting either districts or colleges you know, engaged and committed to education pathways is really having a fearless leader, to finding that person either on the district campus level or at the college who's committed and willing to, you know, work a little bit harder to make this a reality. You know, the most successful programs that I've seen that I've worked with, there's a committed superintendent in a smaller district, or a committed CTE educator that is just recognizes the value of having these education pathways and really being able to, you know, grow your own and have this committed group of you know, a pipeline of future teachers. So I would just add that.
Yep. So lightning round for everyone in less than a minute and a half. We talked about why do this, why it's important. Now we've talked about how you guys have done it. And so just some advice for our attendees. What would you suggest they do next? What's the next best step if they're interested in engaging in educator registered apprenticeship with youth in their area? Valerie, you want to take a stab at it?
I really think it's beginning conversations. Just start talking to people. I think, you know, so many adults think that students aren't interested in going into the field of teaching, and I think they would be surprised at how many understand the value of a teacher and the importance of a teacher and want to be a teacher, and they need somebody pushing them to trigger them to say, yes, it is a valued, needed profession, and we just need you to take that next step.
Great advice. Rachel and Emily?
I would say, basically building on what Erica just said, find your champion, because she was so right about that. You know, someone has to really drive this, you know, and be relentless in getting the message out about the opportunities that are available, and reaching all the parties involved.
Emily,
I'll be quick.
what's
Oh, go ahead.
sorry.
Emily, does Emily, I'll let Emily add and then I'll add.
Yeah, basically what Rachel said, it takes a lot to situate all this and keep it going. So yeah, you have to have a very strong-willed person to do all this. Yeah.
All right, Erica.
Okay,
Saving
and
the best
then-
for last.
Yeah, well, link to your network. There are people in your community, your state, that are already doing this work. And so go to them and learn from them. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, and, you know, have folks talk to each other, either at the ISD or the community college level, to learn from folks that are already doing this work.
Awesome. Thank you to a terrific panel. We appreciate you taking your time out today to discuss this with us. Ivy, over to you.
Yeah, I was about to say thank you to you, Elizabeth. New America is proud to partner with RTI International and the Educator Registered Apprenticeship Intermediary work. This has just been a fantastic conversation. And speaking of Erica's point about connecting with networks, New America does have a network of youth apprenticeship intermediaries and folks involved in and around. So subscribe to our newsletter to stay up to date on the latest. And the Educator Registered Apprenticeship Intermediary website has some amazing resources too, with affiliate groups to continue this conversation with your peers. So thank you again, everyone, and we'll see you next time.